T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
You ready for do more in the future? Trap Talk podcasts?
Yes.
Man.
Only Trap Talk. Exclusive.
Yes,
Exclusive. Oh.
So stop calling us.
Rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the crop, gotta love it or not. I'm hot from the hop to the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with everybody, we do it. Everybody, we do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up.
You are now tapped into the coolest reptile podcast in the world. Welcome to the very first installment of Tuesday nights Fat Snake Tuesdays. And that's not fat meaning obesity. That means pretty hot and tempting. Like Pacquiao right here in this thumbnail. I'm just kidding. It's not Pacquiao. It's Eric Lee,
Hey,
my
what's up?
co-host. Dog.
What's up, man?
Hey, I know. Hey, how many Retic people are so jealous and mad right now that I have this going on? I'm my boy, man, Eric Lee. Thank you so much for doing this. How you doing tonight, man?
Anytime. I'm good, man. How you doing?
Good. For anyone out there who knows, Eric's less than 20 minutes away from me. And I was like, God damn it! Not only do I need to start a podcast that's wrapped around these reticulated pythons that we love passionately, we love the retics,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? But man, I need to use my resources. Eric Lee's less than 20 minutes away. You know, I know you got your own thing going on, but for you to sit here next to me and get this thing rolling for all the retic lovers out there and just kind of create an awareness. Because listen, at the end of the day, I wake up with a peace of mind to where if I have a serious super dwarf retic concern question, I go to you, Eric. You know, maybe a couple other people I'll go to, but you're my go-to. Not a lot of people have a go-to. Like they don't have a safe go-to. And that's because it's a small industry, but when you first get in, it's big. You don't know people, right?
Yep.
Would you have to agree that there's a lot of kind of misled information out there right now?
Oh,
especially?
absolutely. You need to just do your homework on the person and figure out if they're legit, if they're full of shit or whatnot, and just kind of trial and error, unfortunately.
So this is what this is going to be for everyone who's wondering what this Fat Tuesday is all about, man. This is literally about keeping it real with any of these big snakes that we work with. These are pretty hot and tempting, amazing species of pythons. And yeah, just for anyone out there who's curious about coming into the retic game, you know, I'm going to do my best not to just say super dwarf, but that's kind of what I'm in, and that's kind of what you're in. You have one mainland that is just kind of like just there.
Yeah, I mean, when I got back into it in 2012, I had her from my first clutch, and she was my holdback, and she'll be with me forever. She's not a breeder, just big ass giant pet. So, but everything else is pure SCs or crosses.
Nice. And like I said, man, it's because people do have mainlands out there, obviously. I mean, even though they're not what they once were, or I mean, how do you be nice about it, man? It's just kind of going to shit right now for the mainlands.
I think the mainland issue is just overproduction, and majority of people that have them literally have no business owning them. They're great as, you know, hatchlings and local, and they're inexpensive, which brings a lot of people in. 6 months in, a year in, people realize it's not for me. Then they try to dump a big snake that most people don't want to deal with.
I mean, if we could kind of keep the topics on mainlands right now, like what's your kind of take on it overall? I mean, you see people already kind of dumping their mainlands or selling their collections, or is it just any snakes that you're seeing being sold off right now?
I think the big issue is people like, kind of, they have that ball python mentality where you see people post up, oh, I picked up 3 or 4 or 5 hatchlings, which is great. But in 6 months, they're not posting about it, or they're moving them because they're biting off way more than they can chew. And at the end of the day, it's like all these people, like you see them on the groups, oh, I'm selling so-and-so because I'm changing breeding directions with a baby. It's a fucking baby. You're not doing shit with it for 5 years, but you're changing your breeding directions. No, because you bought it on impulse at a show, or you got it hooked up, or someone was giving it away because, you thought you're going to get this killer deal and you got it. Then you realize, oh, that's a lot of work. So I think just a lot of people get the mainland stuff or even SC stuff now, even though the SC is a little bit more pricier, for all the wrong reasons. A lot of it is just social media driven where, hey, so-and-so has one, or he's selling this for that much. If I can make them, then it doesn't help. I think a lot of the passion and actual fascination that a lot of keepers had pre-social media days or even pre-internet days are gone, unfortunately.
I mean, can we even name more than 5 well-respected retic breeders, and not SD, we're talking mainlands here, to where if they hatch out a clutch, people are like losing their shits excited for it?
I mean,
I know Aubrey, and that guy Aubrey, right?
Yeah.
He has that. He was the first guy where I was like, that Ocelot, is it the Ocelot stuff?
Ocelot, Rainbow,
Ocelot,
whatever. Yeah.
which you have in your collection, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, here's the thing. It's kind of like, even though we're saying where the mainland market's headed, where it's at, there are still relevant things happening within the mainland.
Oh, absolutely.
That's important to even the super dwarf game.
Yeah, because most of the time it's right now, it's like we can't import anything. So what we have is what we have.
Right.
So the big push for a majority of people, even some of the mainland breeders, is getting those mainland genes into the SD stuff.
So, guys, I just want to say shout out to everyone in the chats. I do things a little bit differently when I have someone next to me, because I just think it's awkward just saying hi to people in the chat for the first 3 minutes when someone's just sitting here next to me. So we just got things rolling. I do want to say, if anyone's in the live chats, they have an important topic, something that they want to ask either me or Eric Lee, or just something to relate to what we're talking about, drop a super chat, okay? And I do want to say that, sorry, it's hard for me to look. I do want to say that tonight's episode is brought to you by Sim Container. God damn it, Josh, now you're in the way. Jesus. This episode is brought to you Sim Container, guys. If you have eggs, put them inside of a sim box. Less steps, less stress. If it's a sim, it's a win all day, every day. I'm very excited to have Eric Lee here, not only for this podcast, but he's actually got to see my room for the first time after me moving everything in. And one thing I'm very excited to talk about is the collaboration that me and you have going on with 42 eggs all inside of a sim container, okay? They're all doing great. I do want to say again, shout out to the sponsor, John and Alex over at Sim Container. But let's kind of talk about this collab, man, me and you, because like I said, I'm not a big breeder loan guy, or like you know how dicey things can get, right? Especially when there's, I don't know, I don't want to get into it, but I'm just saying it could be real dicey doing these breeder loans things. But you're obviously a veteran, very easy. You live next to me, so there's no issue, right? So me and you went ahead and went with this collaboration pairing, which my female is a 50% Super Dwarf Platinum Het Anery, and then your male was a Marble Tiger.
Yeah, 50% SD Marble Tiger Het Anery.
Okay. So overall, throughout your years of doing this, Eric, I mean, how do you like to delegate collabs? I mean, first and foremost, are you used to having a lot of people reaching out to you, asking you, hey, can I send you this, or can you send me this, and can we collab? Like, how do you personally like to work collabs?
Honestly, I don't really do them all that often, just because all the unknowns. I mean, if it was black and white and it worked out great every time, then no big deal. But even then, like bringing other animals into my collection or vice versa, like I'm not a fan of it. And like when they go bad really bad for everyone involved, and it just turns into a shit show. So,
right.
But if I do one, it's usually like, me sending out a mail more than I'd ever like. I don't usually bring things into my collection at all, because my collection for the most part is pretty closed. I don't bring new animals in. I haven't had a new animal for a while. So like even sending it to you, I was like, okay, it's cool. But even after that, when I got the mail back, then you quarantine and this and that, where, I trust you, but it's not even that. It's just, there's there's unknowns.
I don't trust myself. If it came from me, I would quarantine it too. I'm just saying, like, that's the smart thing to do, because I understand. Like by the time I got really deep into keeping snakes, I started realizing, like, holy shit, something might have something in this room. Like, because at the end of the day, you keep adding shit, especially imports, and you have things dying. It kind of becomes concerning. And then also, I've said this story many times, when Forrest Fanning first came over into my trap, my old trap, and he looks around. I'm just like, he's here, and I'm all excited, but I'm also nervous because I'm like, dude, I don't have nothing at that time. Especially, I had a few chondros, but nothing nearly as cool as he had, right? So I was kind of just like, I don't think he's gonna be too impressed. But he walks in, he looks around, he's like, there's Nido in this room for sure. I'm like, what? He's like, hey man, just letting you know, when you keep this many different stuff, there's something has Nido in here. And I'm like, wow, thanks, Forrest. And it was just so nonchalant. Then he went into like, oh, and then like, you shouldn't give me respect and props on snakes, but like, he was just kind of a realist with that. Like, yeah. And so that's why it's like, you can't ever be too careful. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, stuff goes around, especially with Nido or this or that. It's like, that's just going to devastate your collection if you have anything that survives it. But then even if you do, like, what do you do with babies or breeders? Like, do you breed and tell people, yo, there's plenty of breeders they kept it on the DL, then shit hits the fan when their customer says, I bought X from so-and-so, I got it tested, and now it's Nido positive. Like, how do you,
Yeah. And then when it's too late, it's too late.
Yeah.
Like, and you basically have to close off your whole room and make like a whole thing out of it. So anyways, like I said, and nobody should take it personal if someone wants to quarantine your animals, because you should be an advocate of quarantine. Like, I mean, like, even my buddy Socrates, who's like a test fucking nut, you know what I mean? He still, tells you put that shit in quarantine for 3 months. You know what I mean? Just because you just never know, right?
Yeah.
So I want to say, even though this isn't a hot seat, or excuse me, not a super chat, he did drop a super chat earlier. So we'll ask this question for Eric Lee here and myself. Oh no, actually it's to Eric. Fuck me. Okay, question to Eric. Why do all his retics that we have at the facility breed like it's their damn job? Secrets and tips. Go ahead on that, Eric.
Just slow and steady. The males, I mean, you can push them early, but then like you run the risk of them not being ready or just not experienced. Like in all my males, it's not that I slow feed to keep them small. I just slow feed them because I have no reason to get them big. Same thing with the females. Like you slamming, juvenile, male, female, it doesn't matter. Early is not going to benefit you long term. You're just going to prime that animal to always constantly expect food, which long term, when their metabolism slows down, they're just going to get fat and lazy. Yeah. Retic keepers in general, I mean, we can all do better enclosures, better stimulation, better environments for all, and 99%, actually, no, I'm going to say, take this back. I say 100% of retic keepers primarily do what we do husbandry and caging wise to make it easier on us, not to make it better for the animals. Sometimes it's just out of necessity. When you have 1 or 2 animals, you can do all kinds of crazy shit. But you have 50, 60, 70, 100 plus retics, like it's a give and take. But in terms of breeding, just, give the males time to mature, ones to mature, and work with them so they're not crazy and you know what to expect out of them. You'll have a solid breeder for years to come.
I mean, I don't see how maturity is not the best thing in this case because, some have a different pace of growing up, right? Like, and I feel like, even in the ball python game, there's a lot of people who want to create hacks or create shortcuts, which, like for instance, I've talked to some breeders who figure out how to get their males to breed at 6 months and get them up to weight so quick. But I'm like, I don't know. Like, I mean, like first and foremost, I get the rush, especially because, they're at racing the ball python game, right? You want to hurry up and outdo the next person, but still like, how is that even maturely ready to even get good quality, like healthy, like, I don't know, the sperm can't be solid, you know what I mean? Or, I mean, maybe you can, but I mean, what happened with you this year? Let's kind of talk about with, because you had a male that the ocelot male, right? And he went to how many females? Or, I mean, let's kind of
put him to 4.
Okay. And he's how old?
When he started, it was like about 10 and a half months.
Okay.
And the first clutch, like with my GC Snow, she's ended up having 8 good eggs. I'm down to 6 right now. And she was a solid breeder, but obviously with a 10 and a half month old male, I mean, it's hit or miss. And then I ran him to a pure and she slugged out, but that might've been more timing on my part because obviously 4 different males with a male that's less than a year old. I mean, you run a risk, but like you said, like when you're kind of racing toward just getting stuff on the ground, and it's not even a resale factor, it's just me wanting to get my foot in the door with the, rainbow ocelot, whatever you want to call it, and the SC blood. I took the gamble, I'll see if it pays off. It is what it is. I mean, there's always a plus, a pro and con to anything. But when you're running really young males, you can't really expect the same results as you would if you had a 2, 3, 4-year-old male that's been solid, from the get go, where he just literally ran out of juice and he's going to do what he can, but it is what it is.
Yeah. But like, let's kind of take things back. If you could kind of just say, fuck it, let's wait one more year, you probably would, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, my big thing with my rainbow projects with the SD is just to get babies on the ground, raise them up, because I'm going to have 4 or 5 years to eat before they're ready to do anything. Like whatever I get from them this year, like I'm not doing anything with them.
Right.
I'm not doing anything with the males, females. I'm literally going to sit on that whole clutch, however big they are, and be like, okay, well, just time. Same thing with my triple head, the snow pieds. I'm sitting on that whole clutch, and it was a small clutch, and I still have a few more years before anything's happening with that.
Let's kind of vert back to the mainlands real quick, because mainlands are just beautiful, majestic animals, man. What can you say about a mainland, especially a well-kept one, something that is well taken care of? I'm just saying, there's people out there who are probably obsessed and in love with their mainlands, and they're probably hearing this and they're like, well, fuck, like, and mind you, a lot of people get their snakes and they don't pay attention. They get their snakes and they fucking go about their day, and they're like, oh shit, I'm ready to breed. And then they go pay attention and say, okay, now what? And they're like, oh, what? Like, this is the prices now? And I mean, Eric, you've been in the game. How many times does shit go like this?
It does that every year, not even just for mainlands, just for projects where
Period.
you have people chasing projects where they think they're going to do it. And then they, slam the shit out of the male and females, trying to get them breed at 2, 2.5, 3 years old. Then either, the girls don't do good, the males don't do good, or they don't even go at all. Then they wait. And then you can see a couple years later where people are producing stuff and they're putting shit straight to auction. Why? No idea. But you're not helping yourself or the market. And the mainland thing, I mean, my opinion is pretty much on its way out in terms of, hey, I'm chasing, morphs. The 2 main morphs right now that, have any kind of staying power, it'll be rainbow and hypo. Everything else, I mean, if you're selectively breeding, then that's different. But if you're slamming genes together to make a yellow banana, like, you're not going to get shit for it, period.
Yeah. But let's kind of talk about what people can do. Like, let's, because this is about creating some sort of awareness for people to, like, at the end of the day, as much as you want to be a breeder, you have to be on top of your shit. Like, you got to know when you need to pivot. You got to know when you need to, like, vert to another direction if something isn't feeling right to you, right? So if someone's out there, like, how can I have, let's just say the person out there has not a lot of mainlands, but they have mainlands, they keep them right, and they want to breed them someday, but they also don't want to be a part of something that they could really regret. What I'm trying to say is, anybody who wants to put their mainlands into super dwarfs, I mean, is there a way about doing that? Like, and because we're talking about an era where people are now calling their stuff dwarfs and super dwarfs out of the blue. Like, they never had dwarfs, super dwarfs floating around in their shit. And like you said to me before, now it's popping up, right?
Yeah.
And that's also a way down a fucked up rabbit hole of you thinking you have something. And, let's be honest, man, documentation or who you got your shit from really matters in the SD game.
Oh, absolutely.
That's like, and you need to know that out there. Like, if you want in the super dwarf game, it's kind of like saying, well, I want Louis Vuitton and I'm going to go to Walmart to buy it. It doesn't, It's not you, dude. No, you did not get that sick ass fucking purse at the swap meet. Like, I don't give a fuck what you said. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But, I mean, let's kind of like, let's put the ball on my side of the court with this talk and say that I'm your friend. I have all these mainlands. And I'm like, what do I do, Eric? I mean, and here's the thing. I don't want to sell them and just give them off. I'm willing to keep them, but how would I go into the Super Dwarf project with mainlands?
Honestly, unless it's something worthwhile, like I tell people all the time, like the SD game is still wide open other than snows and, obviously albino anery stuff. All the other genes, morphs and stuff on the mainland side hasn't really been done in SD game.
Right.
So unless you're looking to jump, into something like up front and spend a lot of money, like with your mainland stuff, a lot of it, honestly, it's not worth doing it from the ground up. Like, say you have whatever mainland male, and ideally, like, it's not that it's scientifically proven, but most people will say it's better to run whatever mainland male to a pure female or a high percent female than other way where you have a pure male SD, then you're running to a mainland girl. I mean, I did a breeding was it like 2 years back, where it was like a mirrored breeding where the first breeding was a 75% SD snow to a 25%, Motley Sun Tiger double het snow. Then I did the reverse and had the brother to that dam, which was a 25% SD Motley Sun Tiger double het snow male to the mom of that 75% snow. And that breeding in the second, where the mom was a 75% SD double het snow, overall that clutch, those babies were way smaller. And I have one that I held back from that clutch where she's now, it's a December 2020 girl. She's 50% SD and she's over 2 years old, obviously. And she's on wrap ups. She's tiny.
Right.
I think the females do play a part more than if you had it reverse where you're using a pure SD male to a mainland female. I mean, is it scientifically proven? No, but from what I've bred and those two pairings, which are basically just opposites of, of the mom and dad, to me, it seems like it's a, worthwhile endeavor where if you can use a pure or a high percent female and use a mainland male, I'd go that route.
I mean, I don't want anyone to give up hope. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like, people do listen to certain podcasts, especially the coolest podcasts in the world. And, they seem to panic, and I don't want anyone to panic out there.
I think the biggest thing about the mainland retics in general is, like, if you're doing it, with a true passion, like, you're going to weather the storm. All these people that are like, hey, I'm going to buy all the shit and breed and make all this money. Like, the money isn't there if you're spending the actual amount of time you should be cleaning, taking care of, and handling your animals. And the handling is not just, hey, I'm going to take it out of his cage for 20 seconds, put it in the tote, clean his tub, and put it back. Like, no, there's plenty of people that have big retics that don't take them out ever, other than literally for maintenance, which is shitty because think about it. That's what, 30 seconds of handling, if that. So,
and you have a legit ass jungle gym for your retics. Huh? Yeah.
They go out as much as they can, like even this past couple weeks been cold as shit. So, but the weather's getting nice. So hopefully soon, I'll have them out in the jungle gym. Even my big girl, she'll be cruising around the backyard now since the grass is like fucking a foot tall from all the rain.
You don't even have a jungle gym on this page yet. You're still on.
No, it's on the old one. Yeah.
So, I mean, what Eric's trying to say is it's like, you think about a dog that needs to be walked, right? Or you think, and mind you, this is why I say little dogs aren't real dogs, because I mean, even they need to be walked, but people think, okay, I'll let you out in the backyard and do your thing and come back in and be a house dog, right? Yeah. This isn't a house dog. Like, this is like I said, it can be a house dog, but you need to fucking give it its exercise. It needs to roam. It needs to do its thing.
It's like, people that have that mentality where, like, say if you're a couch potato, which is nothing wrong with it, then get a couch potato animal.
Right. You
don't need a big mainland that you're going to keep in a little tiny ass box and never do shit with it, because at the end of the day, like, that animal, don't get me wrong, they'll breed, and people always use that excuse, well, they're healthy because they're breeding. You can look at our prison systems. People breed there all the time. That shit ain't exactly the best environment for it. Yeah, they'll do their biological drives to breed and this and that, but are they healthy? Are they getting stimulated? Because I think for the most part, most people can agree, ST or mainland doesn't matter, that retics are pretty damn smart when it comes to snakes. So living in some bare-ass cage with paper and a dog bowl in it is less than ideal for retics in general, regardless of what you have.
Oh man, it's about to get spicy right now, bro, because there's something going on. I mean, it's kind of been out there, but there's a guy out there. His name's Liam. He's from the UK, and I'm not gonna lie, man, he's very passionate about the information that he wants to share, and I think everyone who has information should be able to share it. And there's a lot of breeders, not every breeder, but there's a lot of breeders kind of rashing him and roasting him and kind of saying, like, what you're saying is fucking, like, out of left field, like you're being a blue-haired person, basically, right? But let's kind of talk about this. There was some sort of demonstration, or there was some sort of I don't know what I'm trying to fucking think, but there was something done with a test between a ball python spending a certain amount of time in like a bioactive or like a very like thriving enclosure for 2 days. And they did a couple different tests, but at the end of the day, what these tests are showing is that these ball pythons generationally are becoming more dumber and dumber and dumber by just being bred in RHACS. Like, their brains are just kind of shrinking.
Well, there's no stimulation for them. Imagine if you lived your entire life in a box with nothing, just white walls, place your shit and sleep, and then you have no kind of outside external stimuli to, trigger whatever in your mind. I mean, generationally, like, I would totally expect that.
So, and then this is what I say, because one of my nicest animals, and not that any of the stuff I have isn't nice, but like an animal I'm not ever worried about taking out is a ball python. I know my ball python. I mean, what the worst is going to have is maybe a little tiny stuck shed, which is barely the case. Like the way I keep my ball pythons, they shed, shit, breed perfectly. Okay, maybe not all the time perfectly, but they do it where I'm like, hey, I think they're happy, right?
Yeah.
I've had retics in RHACS, and I know there's a certain point where that retic cannot be in that rack. Not only in size, but just demeanor. Sometimes you have snakes that just want more space.
Yep.
And a retic will do what? Shove its fucking face off, or like kind of harm itself, right?
Yeah.
I don't see ball pythons doing that to themselves. You know what I mean?
I think just the intellect of the retic is way far superior than a ball python. So the ball python is that bump on the log where it can literally live in anything you put it in, as long as it has its heat source and this and that. Whereas retics, if they're not getting stimulated, or they're not getting the exercise they need, I think long term it's just not a healthy environment for them.
And you think about a ball python. It's called a ball python because its defense is to go into a ball. It wants to just hide. It doesn't want to attack. Doesn't want to talk. Just wants to hide. And if you kind of look at some of the stuff that's out there, these things are dug under the dirt. You know what I mean? They want to be out of sight. So I'm saying, like, some dogs could be kept in the house and not have much exercise. You have those little dogs. I want to say ball pythons are that little kind of a tiny dog that doesn't need much, and it's going to be just fine. But if you have something, like if you think about putting a monitor in a rack, the fuck, that's
Nope.
it's not going to work. You know what I mean?
Like even right now, the big push for people, like a ton of people have the water monitors, all the binos and this and that, and they're kept in visions. For hatchling, it's fine, but what, 6 months and a year from now, or longer, like that thing is going to need a whole room. Period.
So I mean, are we doing something terrible by the ball python by keeping them in racks? What would your overall kind of thought be on that?
Honestly, I think overall the reptile community could do a lot better in terms of how we keep it. Because at the end of the day, 99% of what we do is for the benefit of the keeper, not the snake, lizard, whatever you have. Because if you have one or two, then you can do all kinds of elaborate, crazy shit and you're fine. But say you have an actual collection of 50, 100, 150 plus animals where at that point, you're simplifying everything to make it functional for you, to keep it clean and organized, which is fine. But are you stimulating the animal? Probably not. I mean, you get to the point where less is more, where until you cut back and you can do all the crazy nice stuff for your animals, it'll never work with a large collection. And it's not because you don't care about it. You literally don't have enough time in the day, period.
Damn, my boy took his post down. That's crazy. So shout out to Antoine Hood from High Desert Pythons. He, he's a jokester, and my boy Antoine is this, like, he just has these jokes. I think you met Antoine. You might have met him at Trap Fest.
Yeah,
black dude, big ass black dude with a bald head.
Probably.
He has a black belt. Anyways, this is my boy. That's my boy Antoine. But he, I don't know what he did, but he took like a picture of a rack with the snake and then like input an image of like a playground, and like put like a playground and then he put a fat strip of a lighting on the back. But then the other people who are kind of backing this guy in his research took that very like wrong, but I mean, I just think because, like I said, I've seen snakes with no face.
No, at the end of the day, like even among like, clutch mates and litter mates, you'll have that one snake that would do perfectly fine in a rack, or tub, whatever, and others that just go batshit crazy. And I'm not even talking long term. My last mainland clutch was a pied breeding, and I had one pied where literally out of the egg 12 hours later the face was all smashed up. So literally 12 hours after it hatches, because I put it in a FB10 tub, the face is all completely obliterated. Siblings were all chill. It didn't even have its first shed. But like that's when you got to realize like that whole kind of generalization where all this will work for all the animals, it just doesn't. Sometimes you have that one either idiot snake, asshole snake, whatever you want to call it, where you got to do certain things to make it thrive, otherwise it just won't.
Or maybe it's not even an asshole snake. We're just assholes.
Yeah. Like I said, we do most of the stuff for our benefit, not the snakes.
I mean, I'm in a better place in my life, so I'm not here to just name drop anymore. But you and I know people who just are way in over their heads. They got way too much, and they have shit shoved into racks. And knowing that they see the neglect they see, they just don't care. You know what I mean? I'm just all about seeing what I see, man. If I see a snake that's uncomfortable, I stop and I figure out what is going on. And I got to tell you, the only time I ever had a snake, a retic, that had a pushing issue anytime I upgraded the size, it wasn't an issue no more. Like this girl right here, like, dude, she was, oh my God. Like since I got her, she was just a pusher. And I was like, why? And until I put her in a fucking 8x3, you know, and I still want to put like some like shelvings and stuff, but just even that enough to stop the pushing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of things, either size, too big, too small, too hot, too cold. There's, you know, males, if you run, like I have all my entire collection in one room. I'm sure some of the pushing issues I have with my males is not because the cage is too small. It's because they smell female cycling.
Right.
And if I don't give them access to breed, then they're just going to go batshit crazy, which having a room of 90 some retics, you're going to have one or two that are like, oh, okay, well, we're just going to smash your faces up no matter what you do.
And I can't stress the fact that, oh man, I wish there were 10 rooms with 90 plus retics. And I guarantee you probably have the best smelling room, because you know how much you have to be on top of that shit. I mean, obviously, you know, but bro, it's because you have motherfuckers who go, like you have those, I'll take care of that another day or something. Bro, that first and foremost, these motherfuckers will take the nastiest shit after they knock their water bowl over, and they'll just marinate in it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's disgusting.
That shit soup, then it gets hot, then you smell it. I'm in my room 7 days a week, hours on end. There's times where I'm done. You know, you shower, then you go in there just to spot, you know, turn off, you know, shut everything down for the night. Then someone takes a massive shit that they're painting with, and you get right back in there. It never ends.
And we also talk about the biggest thing about you not being able to just leave for a little bit and enjoy your life. You know, like
I'm 100% tied to my, you know, collection, because like I know people have helpers and that'd be great, but I'm just too paranoid. And it's not even a theft thing; it's a whole disease liability.
Disease, yeah, right.
And like when I was in Arizona, I had people that looked after my stuff, but even back then, I'd always be like, "Don't mess with any of the big stuff."
Just put another water bowl in there.
Yeah, I'd come back and I'd have 6 or 7 water bowls in there, because I don't want, you know, and I'd tell them, hey, if you open the door and they come at you like food-wise, like a food response, just don't worry about it. One day is not going to kill them.
Yeah.
It just becomes a liability with big snakes. The small stuff, not so much, but I'm just super paranoid on who I have come over, because, you know, you never know what can happen, unfortunately.
And then there's stories out there, aren't there? There's stories of because here's the thing, there's people out there who fucking concrete rules into their helpers' heads, and sometimes the helpers just do what the fuck they want to do, and then they fuck around and find out. Like that girl who died fucking in that sheriff's what was that story about that girl? Like she was told not to take out like a 7-foot super dwarf retic. Like the guy told her, do not mess with this one, and of course she did it to take some pics, and it fucking choked her out.
Yeah, I mean, it just
nuts.
People think because you have one snake that you can hand to a retic, and that's absolutely not the case. It'd be no different than saying you had a leopard gecko and I'm going to take out someone's adult monitor that you don't know or you're not familiar with, or that monitor's not familiar with you or your smell. Like, bad shit can happen.
Yeah. Speaking of bad shit happening, I mean, it's easy to kind of get yourself overwhelmed with retics, period. Super dwarf or mainlands, whatever, right? I mean, there's such a great cute phase with them in the beginning, right? They're so tiny, they're so little, right? But like, it's kind of addicting, just like anything else. I think natural humans just become addicted to things, especially if you're a reptile head. First time you get yourself a good quality retic, you can't help but to get another one, right?
Yeah, you just collect them. And when they're small, it's easy, but once they hit that 6-month mark and they can't be in a tub or they need 4-foot or bigger enclosures, that's when I think a lot of people realize, no, they overdid it.
What year was it again? Was it after Arizona when you really started taking things off and taking this into a business, or when did you kind of like really start focusing on SD projects and then, you know, selling them and keeping them and stuff like that? What year was that?
Probably right before the ban in 2015.
Shit.
So
okay,
I got back into retics in general, or snakes in general, in 2012. Then from there, I just kind of always got big into the mainlands, which, you know, a bunch of 20-foot, you know, or not 20-foot, 20-some adult breeder females becomes a pain in the ass. And like, I'm in decent shape, but even handling one snake that's even cooperating is a lot of work. Then realizing you're doing that 20 times over or more, depending on how many you have, I just started downsizing. Then found out about the whole SE thing, see if it was legit, and just got in that. And about 2015-ish, it just took off.
I mean, if you were to go back to 2015, but we're here in 2023, but the cool thing is, like, you kept all this knowledge that you had now. Like, how would you move in this game? Like, how would you add stuff? Like even if you could buy a group, would you buy a group? Like, how would you just advise someone to move into this game? Like, in, you know, I'm talking somebody who's done their research, someone who's geeked out. Maybe it's somebody from the ball python game. You know, maybe they've just done enough, seen enough, but ready. How would you, if that was you, how would you get into the game?
Right now, the biggest thing I always tell people is like with the SD stuff, whether pure or high percent stuff, like look at it like you would, you know, breeding purebred dogs and cats, lineage and history, family lines, all that is the most important thing. The numbers is the numbers. Like you can get a 50% SD and you can make that a million different ways.
Right.
But it's like, you know, 50% SD is not necessarily like, oh, you don't expect it to be the smallest. But if you have parents that are
42 eggs, bro, I mean, that's not really 50% SD type activity,
so, I mean,
but
you
I'm
just
happy.
you just got to pick and choose, find legitimate breeders that you want to work with where they have the information. Like you start asking breeders or sellers basic questions, and if they can't answer it, that's your first red flag. And the whole, hey, I don't know you, I'm gonna give you this killer deal on this SD, whatever, should be another red flag. It's that whole used car salesman mentality. Hey, I don't know you, I just met you, I'm gonna give you the deal of a lifetime. Like, why?
Right.
Like, that's just complete shit. And you know, at the end of the day, right now, with SD popularity going through the roof, and how even a lot of mainland breeders are, you know, gearing toward the SD stuff, is because they see the writing on the wall. Mainlands are great, don't get me wrong. My big super sun girl, I'm gonna have her forever. I'm eventually gonna have a big giant ass walking for her, but I wouldn't breed mainlands. There's no majority of people that have mainland stuff or even SD stuff honestly have no business owning it, because they, you know, like I said, hatchlings are great, the colors are amazing, but they don't know and realize the amount of work and dedication it takes. And I'm not talking about just cleaning. I'm talking about the logistics of you dedicating half a room, a whole room for one big mainland girl, or you sourcing 10, 15 pound feeder animals, or you being able to, like you said, go on a trip and be like, yo, I'm going to have my neighbor feed my retic or shit like that. It's basic stuff that people don't think about, and they realize after the fact, like, even like when you want to get rid of it, where do you move a 15-foot retic? You don't. Like, there was something posted in, was it New York, Long Island, or some bullshit? Their fishing game or cops just found a 14-foot like retic curled up on the side of the road, frozen, because some fucking asshole threw their snake out in the wintertime in New York or Long Island, wherever it was, frozen on the side of the road because they had no business owning that snake.
Yeah.
You know? And unfortunately, like everyone talks about how like US ARC doesn't do enough to fight for our rights. It takes one asshole for one incident and 100% will lose their rights overnight. And it's not even killing an adult. People like, oh, an adult died. Who gives a fuck? But heaven forbid the day comes when some kid gets killed, or God forbid eaten, like some toddler, because some negligent parent that has a retic doesn't do what they should. Like 100%, I guarantee will lose their rights overnight.
And it sucks because look at all the work that's US ARC's been doing. Look at all of our donations, everything that we've been doing. And you're right. It's going to take one fucking asshole or maybe a set of assholes to just fuck this all up.
That's all it is. And the thing is right now is education is key, but it's not even just education in terms of what you have or what you can have. It's changing the mindset of the new keepers, mainland SD, doesn't matter, for housing these animals in ways that are more conducive to the animal long term. Because, you know, everyone always talks about, hey, you got to sign up for US ARC and get the word out. The big push is not necessarily just that, but it's reaching non-reptile people. Because, like, my wife's a school teacher, has nothing to do with snakes. All her friends, nothing to do with snakes. They come over, they check out, the kids love it. But you need to reach that next generation of keepers and, you know, just let them know, like, hey, these animals, yeah, they're big. They can be, you know, potentially dangerous because, end of the day, they're wild animals. I don't care if they're 10 generations in. They're a reptile. They don't have the whole thought process like a dog or a cat that's domesticated, where you got to show it the respect and give it the room it needs. Because, like I said, one bad incident, you know, whether out of neglect or just, you know, just pure happenstance, is going to screw all of us.
And, you know, it's unfortunate because, like, I kind of put mainly retics in that same category of, like, people keeping venomous. Like, I mean, I don't see any, and it sucks because I got people out there who keep venomous who are fucking, like, they're born for it. But because how many idiots and assholes that are out there, bro, like that we talk about a toddler being eaten. What about toddler getting bitten and fucking dying from a venomous bite due to neglect? You know what I mean? And I, you know, as much as I love the homies who keep this dangerous shit, humans are fucking idiots, bro. And like, no matter how careful you are, it's kind of like, man, I'm a good street bike rider. I got a fucking R1 and I never fall. What about that fucking that asshole just ran through that red light and just fucking took you out?
Yeah, you can't predict what people do. And at the end of the day, it's like, for every, you know, solid 100% good, you know, retic keeper, you're going to have a bunch of shitbags. Why? Because unfortunately, mainland retics are a fucking dime a dozen. Like pre-2015, before the ban, even like normal stuff was pricey. Now everything in the $100, $200 range. When people ask, like when I was in Arizona, like, you know, I was doing the mainland stuff, I would literally, like, you know, I'd make a normal out of whatever breeding, because of, you know, it's one of the lesser gene combo stuff I'd make, where people are like, hey, can I do a payment plan on a $125 snake? Like, no, are you fucking crazy? You can't afford a $125 snake. You want to do a couple week payment plan on, like, you have no business owning it, period. You know? And the thing is, you know, like you said, retics, mainland SDs, whatever, they look kick ass as hatchlings. They're cute. Their colors are just ridiculous. But then you get into it and you realize it's a super involved and dedicated thing. And most people just aren't.
Well, you're like, what's happened to its face? And what's, you know, and the impressive thing is, and I think this is why fucking dickheads don't care. They're fucking German tanks, man. They shed that shit off, and then they, you know, because that rule is, oh, if it's pushing, feed it a big meal.
Yeah.
So it doesn't move. That's fucked up. Like, you know, because think about when you're so, like, I eat till I hate myself. I don't know about you guys, but I know you do at some point. I know you put it away. But you know, that's fucked up, man. Like, and that's what worked for her. But like, I would have to feed the shit out of her. That's why she's so big.
Yeah, and at
that's
the end
why
of the day,
she's so big, bro.
That whole thing is, it's just a band-aid. You're not curing anything. It's a symptom of what's causing her to do that. I mean, yeah, she could be doing it just because she wants to push, but more than likely there's something else. Like I said, she needed a bigger cage,
right,
or this or that.
So overall, you know, how do you feel about the, you know, where things are at? You know, I don't know, man. We're talking about tapping into people who aren't in the hobby. So how much would it be better for people who have a lot of mainland retics? Maybe not a lot, but maybe have some that are really just, you know, like I said, ones who take them out and they're just lovable. Like they're ones that were educational side of things. Like, how do you feel about like people kind of collabing with their local schools or something like that? I mean, do you feel like that's something that can maybe turn this around versus just trying to breed these big fuckers? Or what do you think?
Yeah, at the end of the day, honestly, like, it's weird because reptile community in general, their mindset, well, at least now, in my opinion, social media driven, is all about breeding shit, where you get people that are into, you know, dogs, cats, birds, you know, saltwater fish, whatever. They don't get into it for the sole fact of, hey, I'm gonna breed this. But it seems like more and more these days, SD, mainland, whatever, they get their animal purposely because, hey, I want to breed it. I have zero experience. And you're like, why? You don't necessarily breed it. Like every purebred dog and cat sold, you know, other than even if you get breeding rights, you don't have to breed it, you know, because once you do, you open up a can of worms of, you got to take care of hatchlings, you got to feed, you got to find a source to buy your animals. What do you do with this shit? You know, like my wife's a teacher, like I said, and I've done probably half a dozen or so like presentations for her school, summer schools and stuff around in Chula Vista. Just, you know, the kids love it. Even the parents, not the parents, but like the teacher aides and teachers love it. Just because, like I said, we have to reach the next generation of keepers, you know, or just not even keepers, even people that are enthusiastic about reptiles and they could support us without ever owning an animal, you know, because when legislation comes down and goes to the masses, not just reptile people, they're going to vote on it. And if they have no understanding of reptiles, whatever they're trying to ban, like, why would they help? It's that whole adage of like, you know, USR, a lot of people are criticizing them because, you know, the retic stuff that was going to all the large constrictors, people in the reptile community, I don't keep, you know, X, I keep Y, so I don't need to worry about it until, you know, down the road. By the time it comes for your shit, no one else is gonna be left. So,
you know, it's crazy. It kind of reminds me how like fucking lost a lot of these OG reptile keepers are, like ones who just rely on shows and they just do their vending thing, and respect to those people, right? But there was people bitching so much about Arlington and ARBC because there was a fat fucking line right down the middle. And I'm not gonna lie, that line was, there was a lot of people throughout the whole day, all there to see Emily from Snake Discovery. And people around them were bitching because there's all these people in front of their table. Well, fucking talk to them. Like, what do you like? Isn't the whole thing about being at a show is having people there?
Yeah,
like, I
think the big thing is that literally shows you, like, you can go to shows where, like, I only keep retics, I don't keep anything else, but I appreciate other animals. Right. But at the same time, you know, you go to, you know, you're at a big show, small show, doesn't matter. You start looking at the animals, and you have the guys that run it, you know, owner breeders, whatever. They talk to you, chill as fuck. you know, you just shoot the shit with them. It's cool. But then you have these other people that are at the tables, and once they realize you're not buying, like you're not a potential sale, they don't give a fuck about you. And that kind of shows you where the mentality of keepers are, where you have the ones that, like I said, they just want to spread the information and love about whatever they're keeping, breeding, whatever. It's cool. You know, then you have the others where they're not going to give you the time of day unless they expect like you're a potential, you know, customer, which is shitty. And that's where the disconnect from the whole reptile community is, where, I mean, everything's cliquey as fuck. The Retic community compared to ball python, we all have our clicks, and whether you're in or out, who gives a shit? But at the end of the day, it's like, for us to do this long term and sustain it in the future is like, you need to reach non-reptile people, and you can't do that if you're just like, hey, I'm only gonna talk to people that I think I can make a sale with. I talk to fucking people all the time on, you know, DMs, you know, or they send me messages about this and that. I don't give a shit if they buy from me. If they do, great. If they don't, it is what it is. But they ask me, you know, questions regarding ST stuff. Hey, you know, I saw this, you know, what do you think? I was like, same thing I tell everyone. You better research the shit out of it, make sure it's legitimate, and just go from there. If you want to buy it, great. If you don't, just know what you're getting into beforehand.
Here's the problem with these clicks, man. And I can't sit here and say I don't have a click, but here's the thing about my click, which is my Trap Talk Patreon family. I get new people all the time, and I'm constantly seeing new people coming in, learning off other people, right? So the way you kind of get on top in this world is you uplift other people. Like, I feel like
absolutely.
you have to inspire, especially somebody who doesn't know what's happening. Like, think about the people who just come across a YouTube video, bar check YouTube video, and they're like, what's this all about? And then they stumble across hashtags on Instagram, and they're just fucking a week deep of just staring at snakes, and then they happen to talk to people, right? And the thing is about majority of these clicks in the reptile industry is they don't want, like, a click becomes closed off eventually. Like, a lot of these clicks, they have their people, but first and foremost, nobody wants to get passed up in that click. Like, it's kind of like a political click, and it's kind of like, well, who do you talk to? Or, oh, like, you know, you support that person, you know, that type of shit. Where at the end of the day, like, dude, you know how many people fuck with me and their friends don't fuck with me, and the other way around? Like, dude, not everything's meant to be all like cookie cutter and perfect. Like, first and foremost, we're here for the animals, aren't we?
Yeah, no, I think at the end of the day, it's like, there's always gonna be bullshit on all the, you know, social media stuff, because you have the trolls, or you just have things that go down, then people, you know, voice their opinion, which is fine. But I mean, your opinions of other breeders or keepers shouldn't, you know, negate what they've done or haven't done, or what they could do. It's just one of those things where you got to, you know, stand up for yourself and make your own decisions, and not base it on, hey, so and so, this, you know, influencer likes whoever he likes or doesn't like, and then follow their lead for, you know, no reason other than, you know, you think they, you know, it's just one of those things. It's like that whole high school mentality. It's like, just do your own fucking thing and be happy. Like, I stay in my little Chinese sweatshop, aka my Retic room,
the Pacquiao shop.
Yeah, and I just grind away every day. And most of the time, like, people send me, "Hey, did you see this?" Nope, I don't got time for that shit.
Yeah,
90 some retics. I don't got time for a lot, other than making time for my wife, training, so I don't get fucking fat and gross, and my animals. That's it.
Shut up! Don't talk about this fucker. Has the craziest genetics. It's nuts. He could be like, I'll be fat this month. And then all of a sudden, like, he'll just in the middle of the month, he'll say, oh, I want to be shredded. And then boom, like, bro, you definitely, and this actually is important as far as like, I mean, what determines on your energy, your mental thought, other than Red Bull, but what determines on like the way you kind of have a mentality is based off the things that you input into your body, right? Like you eat, like, you know yourself, like you could eat like a fat ass, but you don't always eat like a fat ass, right?
It's just knowing yourself and what drives you and pushes you and what motivates you. At the end of the day, it's like, I actually got off Red Bull, and I'm going to try to stay off it completely now, which is crazy. So,
I almost started drinking Red Bull because of you. Dude, check this out. Okay, so I don't know what it was, but I was like, dude, it was a long day. Like, you know how it is moving shit. I had a long day, and I still had, like, I had this little bit in me that wanted to keep going. It was about like 7:30 at night, and I was like, and I was so tired of coffee. I've been drinking coffee all day, over it. And I just saw a post about you something with Red Bull, and you showed like the
numbers.
And I was like, fuck it. I was like, I'm at Target. I'm gonna get a Red Bull. And I chugged it at Target. Like, and bro, I felt great, bro. Like, and because I don't abuse Red Bull. I don't ever drink it. But man, I felt great. I didn't sleep for a long time.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, you got to figure out what, you know, I think the biggest thing is what will drive people is if there's something they're passionate about. Because if you do the reptiles, no matter how big or small your collection is, if you're not passionate, after a while, it's a chore.
Yeah.
It's an obligation that you fucking can't stand.
Yeah.
Same thing like working out. Like, you know, you work out because you want to lose weight, get big, whatever. But if you're not passionate about your health or, you know, this or that, it'll wane. Just like people dieting where they're like, hey, I'm on these crazy ass diets, I want to lose weight. They'll do it for whatever event, wedding, birthday, whatever, summer, you know, vacation time. After that, they go back to basics. You know, I'm gonna go back to it, even though I saw the results and the benefits of it. If you're not passionate about whatever it is you're doing in life, you're not gonna last. You have no staying power.
And man, what's crazy is like I came from the fitness industry, and like I would make people cry. Like I would be talking to because I saw a lot of personal training, right? And I would like, you know, you come into the gym and I'd be like, okay, look at this person. You could tell it's fucking, they haven't been here in a while, right? And they want to sign up and they want to tell you, oh, I got this. I know what I'm doing. No, you don't. And then you kind of start digging into them. When was the last time you were to the gym? 5 years ago. And what happened then? I just stopped coming because you don't know what the fuck you're doing, right?
Yep.
But at the end of the day, man, either people want to change so bad to where they know they need help.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need to write it on the wall for them, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you don't want to find other ways to finally make the change, you're never going to want to change. But what's crazy is like, even with that, like, dude, I was at the gym for 5 years. I was kind of in the best shape of my life. How do you think I got my wife? I was like fucking, everything was great. And then as soon as I got hurt and as soon as I left the gym industry, I lost that why I need, like, I'm talking about if I didn't go to the gym, I'm pissed. Like I need the gym. And now it's so easy for me to convince myself not to go to the gym.
I mean, you make excuses. And once you get used to that mindset, it's so easy to say, I'll take another day off turns into weeks or months or years. And just one of those things where at the end of the day, it's like, you got to find a way to hold yourself accountable.
Dude, it's yourself, bro.
Yeah.
Like not even your trainer, not even your mentor, fucking Dr. Phil. Dude, you have to find a way to turn it on yourself.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is like, dude, I mean, it sucks. Bro, I had throughout the fight, okay, I was at 24-hour fitness for like 3 years. You know how many people kept re-signing up packages and like, dude, it sucks to say, but I would see like, even though they're paying all this money, I guarantee they're still eating like shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and, you know, and you want to be like, hey, good to see you again. Like, you look great, but you're like, dude, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing? Like,
well, you know, they're not doing shit. Like I've had a gym membership for fucking ever. And, you know, when you start going to the same gym over and over, now I'm talking years on end, like 5, 6, 7, 8 years at a time.
Right.
You see the same people, but they're lifting the same weight.
Oh,
they look
man.
the fucking same. You're like, you're not training for anything. Like, well, what are you fucking doing? I mean, don't get me wrong. If you're just going there to socialize, cool, no big deal. But like, you know, when I was in Arizona 8 years, same gym. I didn't know a single fucking person because I don't talk to people. I just go there to work out. I don't give a fuck. So it's like you see the same people and they're doing the same shit, and you're just like, in your head, you're like, you want to say something. Like, I'm not trying to be that fucking gym bro and be like, oh, I know everything. But when they're struggling and you're like, you see them, you know, year after year, it's like either pay, you know, shit or get off the pot. Like, do something that's going to actually affect, you know, your training, your workout, whatever in your life. Same thing with reptiles, where focus on something. And I think the biggest thing with reptiles is it's so easy to get distracted by the new morphs, the new projects, or just animals in general.
Or just the rat race, right?
Yeah.
Like it's so easy to get wrapped into something that's not the thing to get wrapped in. Get wrapped into the animal. Like, bro, I'm so obsessed that I have locality green tree pythons. And even though there's people out there saving all their pennies for a designer, the fuck, like it's,
yeah.
I mean, I appreciate what it is, right?
Yeah, there's no, I mean, at the end of the day, like, you can, like, you know, go down whatever path, whether locality, morphs, it's fine. But refine it and spend the time to improve it, whether making that locality influence more, you know, and make it pop more, or the colors on the morphs or whatever. But, you know, if you're just breeding to breed, like, you know, the Retic community in general is fucking notorious for that, where people have whatever clutch, they'll breed it, and they're like, oh, we get to find out who the baby daddy is. Like, the fuck do you mean? That literally tells me, like, you give zero fucks about what you're breeding. You just want babies, which, hey, if that's what you want, that's fine.
Bro.
But don't sit back and say, hey, I'm selectively breeding for this when I have 5 different potential baby daddies. I don't have a fucking clue what it is. Like, to me, I'm like,
that was probably the wackest shit I ever heard. When I first came to the ball python community, there was a lot of like wannabe fucking YouTubers putting shit out and like, who's your daddy clutch? Tap in for the live. I'm like, what the fuck? What does that mean? Who's your daddy, Maury? Like, aren't you caring what male goes to that female? And it's like, a lot of these assholes don't. They're just shooting for the moon. But I will say that was a couple years ago. I mean, I will say, man, there are certain people in the ball python game that are doing the way to do it. The thing is, it's not easy. It does cost a lot of money, but it also, more importantly, more than all those two things, it's time. And a lot of these motherfuckers just put in their time. And, you know, people don't want to wait, bro. And it's unfortunate, but that's you not caring about the animal.
It's that, and I mean, at the end of the day, like, they want to jump ahead, and like, especially with the SC stuff, there's no way to jump ahead because you raise a pure girl, you're gonna wait 4, 5, 6 years before she breeds. I have my marble snow clutch due next month. Damn. I'm a little over, like, right now, I think I'm a little over 9 years into that. So, I mean, I don't see how a lot of people are like, oh, well, I just want to bypass that first initial step or phase. Like, you can't. You can if you're like, if you're loaded and have a fuckload of cash to burn, great. But most people don't. And if you're going to take the shortcuts now when you're not even into it, what are you going to do when you're actually breeding? More shortcuts, more this, more that. It's like, I tell people all the time, like, that everyone wants to be known on, social media for whatever reason, and they want that brand recognition, name recognition for projects.
For whatever reason, they just want the name.
But at the end of the day, it's like, I always tell people, you know what? It's not the projects that's going to get your name out there. It's your actions. When people are like, oh, you've been doing this for 9 fucking years for that Marble Snow project. Couldn't you produce them earlier? Yeah, but not the way I wanted to. That's why I'm 9 years into this project. And hopefully next month, God willing, I get some Marble Snows out of it. But it's your actions and, people watching your animals grow with you, where people are like, well, okay, I want to get in that SD game, but I'm not breeding for, next 3-4 years. Get in the groups, make your name known out there in terms of, hey, they're going to, grow with your animal as you grow with it, because you're going to, post updates, weekly, whatever videos or pics of your animal that you've been raising for years on end, showing your dedication to it. It's not just you buying 2 adults, putting them together, saying, oh, I'm an SD breeder. There's a big difference between someone that's raising up hatchlings or even, and going the long road and saying, hey, I've spent 5, 6, 7 years to get this project off the ground, compared to someone that's like, hey, I have a shitload of money. I bought parents from someone that was just getting rid of them for whatever reason. Now I'm an SD breeder. Like, your worth and your value in terms of what people think of you will be exponentially higher when they've seen you raise those, hatchlings from the get-go all the way until you bred them and they're on eggs and whatnot.
I mean, like, dude, I was easily that fucking painted douchebag, and not on purpose, but like literally I got sold. Triple L sold me a super dwarf, no percentage, by the way, super dwarf golden child, right? And this is 2017, 18. Okay. So I'm like, pure super dwarf. I'm saying pure super dwarf golden child, and basically making myself look like an idiot. But to me, I'm like, this is what I'm being sold, and fuck you guys. I paid $300 for it. Like, steal, bro. Like, what do you mean? And of course, God bless my mentor at the time, Andrew Acevedo, because he was starting to see like, hey man, you don't have, this isn't really super dwarf. And I'm like, no, what do you? And of course, MJ being old fashioned, like old school, like, fuck you, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. But hold on, like, we're talking to Andrew now, right? And so, and this is why I always give respect. I would always show the biggest up towards Andrew, because he painted the way of like, there's only certain people, especially this time, right? Like that time too, 2017, 18, like, the only names I remember him specifically saying was obviously Hartle, you, Rodney, Sean McMillan or something like that, or okay.
Yeah.
But I think that was it. Like that time, that's all I remember him talking about. And so I was like, damn. And dude, I had other shit that was called dwarf supposedly, and like, you know what I mean? But these things were getting big, they're getting massive. But like, think about people who don't have that friend to tell them that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they think they have what they have, right? But man, I don't know what I would be, bro. I mean, like I said, it was definitely eye-opener. It was eye-opening, but I just could only feel, because like at that time, as he's dropping that information to me, these snakes are outgrowing raise out racks. Like, they're already like over 6 feet, and I'm finding this out, and I'm like, I have 12 of them. You're telling me none of these are dwarfs, none of these? And he's like, nope, none of them. And I'm like, and it was that easy for him to say no, because there's no trace. There's where's the documentation? You know what I mean? And it was hard to deal with, bro. Like, fuck, I was actually sad to get rid of those snakes. You know what I mean? But I also didn't want to house fucking 10 to 15 feet snakes, bro. Like,
well, and that's the problem with the SD thing now, is because people are going to get these animals. Then, like, in a year from now, they're like, why is my so-called high percent SD like 6-7 feet? Because it fucking isn't. I mean, it's shitty, and I always tell people, do your homework. I was like, go out and like, even if you're buying from me, go get your references. I'll give you plenty of fucking references, because at the end of the day, if the person you're trying to get whatever SD animal you're getting is like not willing to divulge the info that you're asking, like that's basic that he should know, there's huge red flags. One of those things where, why isn't he telling? Or the worst is like, you see the posts on stuff that's for sale on the groups or whatnot. Obviously, you can't post for sale on Facebook because the shit will get deleted. But when they always like, first question when you post whatever percentage, MORPH, whatever, first question from anyone usually on those threads is, well, it's the breeding. And you always see these ones where they're like, PM me. Why?
Yeah,
post that shit up, because you're going to get 20, 30 other fucking people asking you the exact same question. Why wouldn't you just post it? I'm not talking about the price of the animal. I'm talking about, hey, X% whatever MORPH, this is the breeding period. It'll save everyone time, and if it's low percent, then that's fine, but just put it out there. Don't just be like, hey, PM me and I'll send you like some secret backdoor bullshit,
because you don't want to get called out. That's why.
Yeah.
You want to try to fucking dupe hopefully the person you're talking to is probably an idiot, and you want to tell them what you want to tell them.
Yeah, I mean, and at the end of the day, that's when people like buying stuff should be like, just message to their friends, or if they're in one of the SD groups, be like, hey, this is so and so that I'm potentially looking at buying. This is the genetics. You got to basically ask, does it add up? Like right now, we have obviously the variety and the percentages are way higher than it was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, when people are asking, I have this high percent SD stuff, I'd be like, no, you probably don't. Now is potentially, realistic where whatever you're buying, there are a ton of high percent animals out there. So you just got to confirm it and verify it either directly through the breeder if that person's not the breeder, or just, pick the brains of people like, hey, this is what I'm being told this animal, is it possible? Is it this? Is it that? Just do your homework. Now, if you're just buying a pet and you don't give a shit and you're never breeding, then it is what it is. Hopefully you can manage the size. Yeah. But if it, like I said, if it's for breeding purposes down the road, your potential buyers want that information. The same questions you have, they're going to have, period.
And we're going to make this a wrap-up topic before we close out tonight's first installment of Fat Snake Tuesdays. At the end of the day, for anyone out there who, it's like you have people that think they know their snake. You have your like, oh, I know, like, it's fine, right? And what I mean by that, like, there's the pet side of this industry, right? And I feel like those people are probably more important than the breeding side, just because first and foremost, I've seen people out there who are on the pet side of the industry who have things displayed when they have people come over and they're just geeked out over it. Oh, yeah. Because you also have some people, like I've had people who come over and look at my RHACS and they're like, what's in there? And it's kind of weird. But then they come look at this and they go, oh, wow. You know what I mean? So I think the pet side, like if you have somebody who wants your animals and they don't want to breed, I think it's a beautiful thing.
No, I think honestly, like the pet keepers and the hobbyists that have like, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 retics are probably 9 times out of 10 doing it better than majority of breeders, including myself, just because they have the ability to like, oh, I take my snake out 5-10 hours a week. I literally, there's not enough hours in a week for me to say, hey, I can take every single one of my animals out for 5 hours a week. There's just not enough hours in the week.
Right.
So me personally, I think the pet people, the pet keepers and the people that are hobbyists that are barely getting into it, that have, just a handful of animals, are usually doing husbandry or even just terms of interacting with their animals exponentially better than most keepers. Because us as keepers, we literally don't have the time to do that because we have so many fucking animals, which sucks. And, that's when you get to the point where you got to realize, do you want to be more on the breeder side where not that, you're mass producing it, or do you want your animals to actually get stimulated and have enriched environments where you take them out, they can cruise around for hours on end and you don't have to worry about cleaning a fucking 75 tub hatching rack every other day.
I mean, bro, I'm just saying, like, imagine being that breeder who's been doing this for 10 plus years, right? And yeah, you're loved within, I don't want to say fully loved. I'm not talking about anybody in particular. I'm just saying you're not fully loved, but the breeding community respects what you do. But then you go ahead and fuck over that one pet keeper, right? Meaning all what that happened was they got a snake from you and it died. And you didn't want to make it right. You wanted to tell them to go fuck off, right? And by doing that, I mean, how many people really want to put up with something like that? Especially if they're like, hey, I don't want to breed, but I love this and I want to see what it's like keeping it. Yeah. And then it dies and they basically get told to go fuck themselves. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like your business practices and all that, whether even husbandry, will show like your character more than anything else. All everyone on social media, they're usually not going to present themselves in a shitty way, or maybe they will. I don't fucking know. But most of the time, it's whatever front that they want their buyers, their fans to see. Whether it's true or not comes down to down the road when they have issues with buyers or issues with the snake, or
Right.
they either make it right or they don't. They're shitty, but a lot of people, initially, it's that one thing where they always say you never meet your idols, because like half the time that
They're
shit
not
never,
what you want to meet. Yeah.
So it's just one of those things for the new keepers. I mean, I think for the most part, they're literally paving the way for what the future generations of keepers will be, because they're doing a lot of things that old school people never did, like the lighting, like even, full spectrum lighting and UVB and stuff, where, for what decades, people are like, oh, snakes don't need it. They're in the jungle floor, and, the fucking light never even hits it because of the canopy of the forest, blah, 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 all that shit. But I mean, I think I'd rather err on the side of caution and use full spectrum lighting. I mean, obviously I'm not trying to blind the fuck out of my snakes, but I mean, other than them, okay, if they avoid it, that's fine, but at least they have the option to avoid it.
Yeah, but I mean, don't be bitching if you don't avoid it and fucking.
Yeah, just we can all do better to keep our retics. It's just one of those things where we're not going to change the minds of the old school keepers, and it is what it is. But honestly, a lot of them are on their way out. That's the way I see it. They think they're in. They're trying to stay relevant. They're not. They're spinning their shit to be SD or dwarf influenced. Right. They're not. It's just one of those things where if you like say any old school keeper that you can think of, and they're like, hey, I've been doing this 10, 15, 20 years. If you ever see pictures of their facilities, it's the same fucking cages when they started. The only difference is the volume and size of the number of RHACS cages increase. The living conditions of the animals didn't increase, didn't get better. It's just like, hey, now instead of having 10 cages, I have fucking 50, the same bullshit from 30 years ago. And you can't tell me in 30 some years of keeping that you haven't evolved as a keeper and realized, hey, I need to do more for my animals. At that point, to me, that speaks volumes in terms of they see the animals as a fucking commodity. I'm going to breed it until it dies. And when it dies, one of its, offspring is going to take its place. And that's all it is.
Super random last topic on tonight's episode, man. But what do you think of Rodney? Because, I mean, dude, here's the thing. You want to know how I know the fucking Retic world's fucked up? Because I like Rodney. And as much as everyone are like, fuck this guy, what is he coming? I don't know. If you kind of stop and smell the roses a little bit, some of the shit he says is kind of like, how can you be mad at that? You know what I mean?
I don't have a problem with Rodney. I never have. My thing is like, he has a lot of information. Even he said it himself. It's like, yeah, I'm an asshole. The thing is like, he has a lot of information. The way he expresses that information is hit or miss. But I mean, he makes a lot of valid points, period. Love or hate him. I mean, it's not like he's talking a bunch of bullshit and he's making up a bunch of lies about things. I mean, most of the things he says are factual and can be verified. If you like him for it, great. If you don't, you don't. But it's just one of those things where I have no issues with Rodney. I think, like, in terms of what he's doing, in terms of trying to keep stuff pure with the Turnes, Halmaharas and shit, that's great. Because at the end of the day, it's like you said before with the green trees, you have the locality green tree people and you have the morph green tree people. And there's a place for both as long as you keep track of both. It's not, I'm just going to randomly breed this shit and do everything and just, hope it works out. So,
and at the end of the day, like, man, I easily admit that I could be a fucking asshole, but at the end of the day, like, I could appreciate someone's knowledge over an animal I love more important than being an asshole, because we're all humans. Everyone has their fucking cup of tea or their chip on their shoulder, or however they are. Like, dude, I got so many issues, but I don't give a fuck. I know the shit that I know about the animals, and that's what's important. So to me, when I look at Rodney, all I could just see is the information he's coming from, and that's what matters to me. You know what I mean? And yeah, some of it's a little bit like, oh man, you must really hate this guy. But we're all fucking humans, man. And like I said, I feel like the reason why I wanted to start this is because, yes, me and Eric will have guests on this show, and it's all about awareness. Like, I'm tired of people being taken advantage of in the mainland and super dwarf game. I'm tired of people just being misled and just so many different things being fucking shitted out there, and also people trying to claim shit that they don't have. Like, all this shit will be exposed. All this shit will be discussed on this Tuesday segment, and it's all because I have literally concrete backup like the man Eric Lee here. And so, listen, don't be mad at me. Eric said he would do it, so here we are.
It's all good.
Okay, Eric, real quick before we wrap up, anyone out there who's wondering, dude, I want an Eric Lee production, or How can I be on top of things? Go ahead and plug yourself up right now before we end tonight's show.
You can follow me on IG under SD Snow King. That's my new Retic page. So for all my breedings and what I'll have in the future and whatnot. So just hit me up there. And yeah.
What about Facebook? Because you are Facebook people too. So
I have Facebook, but it's just under Eric Lee. I don't have a dedicated, Facebook page for my snakes because I just don't care enough to do it, because I just I'll post on the SD groups on Facebook or Retic Nation, Retic Connection and stuff like that. But I don't have a dedicated thing on Facebook because that shit keeps on getting taken down. And I've seen other people's pages get, nixed, so I'm not even gonna bother.
I mean, it doesn't matter. Instagram's the way to go. So make sure you follow Eric Lee for all his recent availability when it comes to the real deal Holyfield Super Dwarf Productions. SD_Snow_King. And Eric, thank you so much for tonight. Appreciate it.
Anytime, man.
Guys, just so you know, me and Eric will be collaborating. But I want to know from you guys, who do you guys want us to bring on? What Retic breeders or even big species of python breeders would you guys like for us to interview? Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know. Have a good night. Thank you so much, Eric.
Anytime, man.
So much, guys. We'll see you next week. And guys, don't forget to like, subscribe. Please, if you enjoyed what you heard tonight, hit that subscribe button, drop that notification bell so you're on top of everything. And if you want that exclusive content, if you want to be a part of a growing family, make sure you go to the very first link you see below and join the Trap Talk Patreon family. As soon as you join the Patreon family, you get a link to the Discord, which taps you in with over 160 longevity keepers about their reptile shit, man. I love you guys so much. Thank you. Have a good night. And I'll see you guys Thursday for that Van Russo episode 315. I lied. This was 314. All right, guys. Have a good night. I'm out. Cheers.